thing. He's got to get his notebook. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giri Vardhari Gopi Janavallabha Giri Vardhari Yasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Banachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Vardhari Jasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hey! Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Radha Madhava ki Sri Radha Giridhari ki Karantara srimadbhagavatam ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jaja Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanara Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jaja Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Samaveda Bhakti ki Jai Go Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So this morning, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 22nd chapter, verse 3, and we'll also read some selections about the life of GopalBhattaGoswami, one of the Shad Goswamis of Vrindavan. Okay, so first the Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirya Chilapubhari Ki Jai. So text 3. Taddarshanod gatan pranan pratyadit sur ivotitaha sa sadasyanugo vainya indresho gunaniva taddarshanod gatan pranan pratyaditsur ivotitaha sa sadasya nugo vainya indresho gunaniva taddarshanod gatan pranan pratyaditsur ivotitaha sa sadasya nugo vainya Indresho Gunaniva. You like to chant? Taddarshanod gatan pranan pratyaditsu rivotitaha sasadasyanugo vainya indriyesho gunaniva Taddarshanod gatan pranan Taddarshanod gatan pranan pratyaditsu rivotitaha saddasyanugo nugo vainyo indresho gunaniva Taddarshanod gatan pranan pratyaditsu rivotitaha saddasyanugo vainya indriyesho gunaniva Taddarshanod gatan pranan pratyaditsu rivotitaha Saddasyanugo vainya indriyesho gunaniva. Synonyms: tat, him; darshana, seeing; udgatan, being greatly desired; pranan, life; pratyaditsu, peacefully going; iva, like; uttitaha, got up; sa, with; sadasya, associates or followers; anugaha, officers; vainyaha, king Prithu; indriya ishaha, a living entity; gunaniva, as influenced by the modes of material nature. Translation: seeing the 4 Kumars, Prithu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore the king with all his officers very hastily got up, as anxiously as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. Can anyone relate to that? There's a verse about may my mind be attracted to you. Krishna, just as a young boy is attracted to a young girl, and like there's ever like that, just automatically. This is point being automatic, just spontaneous. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 27th verse, it is said, Prakate kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ankara vimuratma kartamiti manyate. Every conditioned soul is influenced by a particular mixture of the modes of material nature, As such, the conditioned soul is attracted to certain types of activity which he is forced to perform because he is completely under the influence of material nature. Here, Prithu Maharaj is compared to such a conditioned soul, not because he was a conditioned soul, but because he was so anxious to receive the Kumaras that it was as if, without them, he would have lost his life. Do you ever feel like that? If you don't get some kind of sense gratification, you're going to lose your life? Sometimes you hear, he's back there yelling on Tuesday, there's no samosas. It's like, I cannot live. All the samosas are gone. Which reminds me, where is Janardhan? Janardhan, are you up there? Hare Krishna, are you watching us through the screen? Okay. Okay. The conditioned soul is attracted by the objects of sense gratification. His eyes are attracted to see beautiful things. His ears are attracted to hear nice music. His nose is attracted to enjoy the aroma of a nice flower, and his tongue is attracted to taste nice food. Similarly, all his other senses, his hands, his legs, his belly, his genitals, his mind, etc., are so susceptible to the attraction of the objects of enjoyment that he cannot restrain himself. Prithu Maharaj, in the same way, could not restrain himself from receiving the 4 Kumaras, who were bright by dint of their spiritual progress, and thus not only he himself, but also his officers and associates all received the 4 Kumaras. It is said, birds of a feather flock together. In this world, everyone is attracted by a person of the same category. A drunkard is attracted to persons who are also drunkards. Similarly, a saintly person is attracted by other saintly persons. Prithu Maharaj was in the topmost position of spiritual advancement, and as such he was attracted by the Kumaras, who were of the same category. It is said, therefore, that a man is known by his company. Om Gyantimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshul Unminitam Nirataismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shri Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Bancha Kaupadarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. So by your good wishes, I'll try to say a few things. Then we'll read about GopalBhattaGoswami. Seeing the 4 Kumaras, Prithu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore the king, with all his officers, very hastily got up, as anxiously as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. So, it's a symptom of very advanced devotees. Actually, anyone who knows a subject very, very well, they're able to explain it using examples that the audience can relate to. And we see this throughout the Bhagavatam and all the different literatures and so on. The different examples are given of a transcendental truth by using something we can relate to that's going on in this material world. Just to help. It may not be a perfect analogy or an example, but some seem to hit it right on the nail head. Okay, and this is one example here. The Prabhupada says not that Prithu Maharaj is a conditioned soul. The example is given because of the spontaneity, that it's spontaneous. You know what rubbernecking is? You know what rubbernecking is? You heard that one before? You know what rubbernecking is? What's rubbernecking? Their neck goes ring, ring, like that. So that's an expression sometimes used when a beautiful woman walks by a bunch of men. Right? And sometimes you get an example in the summertime, those huge billboards when you're coming to PB. There's that one store called Gone Bananas. I'll leave it at that. So you're surprised there's no more car accidents, right? So immediately the senses are attracted. The eyes go, the ears go, right? You hear some music, this or that. So something delicious to taste, something to see, something to hear, etc., etc., etc. You don't need, it's spontaneous. You don't need anyone to say, hey, well, what's wrong? In fact, actually, if you're not like that, you have to go to a doctor. I remember GopalBhatta? I think it was GopalBhatta in Boston. That was the big brainwashing case That was the whole thing with Adikeshava and all that started the whole thing. Anyways, he was kidnapped by St. Patrick and his parents and so on. And the thing was, he has no longer attraction to women and money and this and that, so they brought him to a psychiatrist to show that he was actually unstable, because what kind of person has no attraction to these things, right? So that was one of the big arguments, that what have we done to him? We've ruined his life. Like that, he's not interested. He just wants to go Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and serve Prabhupada. So they thought something's wrong, something's very, very wrong. So they bring a psychiatrist and say, what's wrong with you? Like that, there must be some problem with you, like that. So because the natural situation in the material world, everyone is spontaneously attracted to the objects of the senses. Prakate kriyamanani, gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudatma kartamiti manyate. Because the false ego, vimudatma, one becomes completely bewildered, under the control of the modes of nature, and one is forced. And it varies, I was pointing out, it varies from person to person according to the mode. Someone in the mode of goodness is spontaneously attracted to those things in goodness. Someone in the mode of passion has no attraction for that, but boy, there's something in the mode of passion, they love it. And someone in the mode of ignorance, their senses are spontaneously attracted to those sense objects in the mode of ignorance. So everyone's got this different mixture of modes, and sometimes you wonder, how can people like something like that? Or don't you like this? What's wrong with you? It's the modes of material nature pushing the conditioned soul. So that's what's going on. So the analogy is given because as soon as the four Kumaras arrived, Prithu Maharaj and his associates and offers and so on, they immediately, there was no someone didn't have to say, hey, Prabhu, Hare Krishna, hey, look, the Kumaras are here. They didn't have to do that. They just immediately got up and received them appropriately, desiring their association. What is that? It says, birds of a feather flock together, because he was also on the topmost level of Krishna consciousness, very anxious to associate with like-minded devotees. It says, you judge, the last line of the purport, a man is known by his company. Like that. So, and this is a instruction to us, and it is said over and over again, we should always be not only always anxious for the association of devotees, but also anxious to associate with more advanced devotees. Because otherwise, how will we come up? Right? So we should always be associating with more advanced devotees, because they'll always bring us up by their association. Just by their association and by their good instructions and so on. So these are the different things which are brought up here in this particular purport. We could elaborate, but we're going to read about GopalBhattaGoswami. So, does anyone have any few questions about these points about spontaneity on the material platform, on the spiritual platform? And, I remember hearing many, many years ago, said there's two kinds of disciples. Two kinds of disciples. One is, when the spiritual master comes, one type of disciple is very happy their spiritual master is here, and the other is not so happy the spiritual master is here. Why is that? You know? He's going to get the sauce, right? Oh, my spiritual master's here. Uh-oh. The other one's very, very enlivened. So, same spiritual master, but what is it? So the point is we should be in that first category. Very, very happy and have the association. But even I remember, Jiva? You seen him come around? Jivananda. Everyone ever met Jivananda? You tell me you met him, okay. No, here, Jivananda. Yeah, the old Jivananda. He would say that about Gunagraya Maharaj. Many years ago, Maharaj would stop in town and someone asked for Jiva, and he said, I don't like seeing Maharaj. He's going to give me the sauce. He's going to get on my case. So I don't want to go. So come on, Prabhu, he's in town. No, I don't want to go. Like that. So, but we should be anxious to have the association of advanced devotees, because they'll pull us out of that. Right? They'll pull us out of that. That's the nature of the advanced devotees. They help us advance. They help us advance also. Like that. So should always be. In fact, today, Ramachandra Kaviraj, right? What is that? How's that begin? Jayakara Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Ramachandra Sangamagi Narottam Das. So Narottam Das, he's aspiring for the association of his spiritual master, Shiksha Guru, Srinivasacharya, but also Ramachandra, his dearmost friend. They were very, 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 you can call them soulmates if you want, in Krishna consciousness. Very, very, very close, that association. So devotees, just like it says here in the purport, Prabhupada said, the conditioned soul feels, if I don't get this sense gratification, I'm going to die. Right? I have no reason to live. So the devotees feel like that. If I don't have the association devotees, what's the point of living? What's the point of living? So devotee feels like that. So that's why the Prithu Maharaj and his entourage very, very anxious to get the association of the Kumaras, and they themselves were very, very good devotees. So because they weren't thinking, oh, we better, just like you hear stories like Durvas Muni showing up, and everyone's very, very afraid that makes the proper etiquette and so on. They're not actually so happy he's there because he cursed people and things like that and what have you. So it's not that type of fearfulness. It's a great joy and happiness. Oh, such a great devotees here. Just think how Krishna conscious we can become by having their association and offering them some seva and some service. So, any questions or comments or realizations on this point? Janardhan? Okay. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Prithu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive the 4 Kumaras. So, just think if you can speak more about spiritual anxiety in this world. How we, make mistakes when we're anxious to serve others. And I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Spiritual anxiety, how we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And
we don't want to make mistakes.
Yeah, but we make them.
Yes.
So it's
So
like,
we should be in anxiety about that?
Yes, kind of like it happens somewhat. So if you can speak on that a little bit.
Well, I think that's a good sign in the sense that the question being about spiritual anxiety and serving others, and there may be discrepancies in the service and being anxious about that. The desire to make sure everything's very, very nice and appropriate, that's good. That's very, very good. And if there's some discrepancy in something we've done or we see others do, sometimes you see in the movies in Prabhupada how he's really upset, or you read about upset that this wasn't done right, that wasn't done right, the etiquette wasn't followed, how patient Prabhupada was with all of his disciples, trying to train them. Because there's a proper etiquette, and that's the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says the real ornament of the devotees is the etiquette. So everything should be done very, very nicely. And there should be some anxiety that everything is done nicely. If it's like, it doesn't really matter. No, it really matters a lot. It matters quite a lot that everything is done appropriately. Now, sometimes there's things out of our control, what can be done. But there should always be a sense of concern that everything is done very, very well for the pleasure of the Lord. And it can be in etiquette, just like here, receiving a devotee, but also means the etiquette of how do you take prasadam, how do you chant your rounds, how do you do this, how do you do that. There's a proper etiquette in every single thing we do, and that's a sign of culture. The mood or expression doesn't really matter. Where does that come from? What mode of nature do you think that comes from? The mood, it doesn't really matter. I think it comes from ignorance. I wouldn't give it a P for passion or a G for goodness. I'll give it a I for ignorance, right? That's ignorance. It doesn't matter. Why are you saying that? Everything matters. Everything matters. Like that. It's a very important point. Everything matters. Does that help? Like that. So let's read about GopalBhattaGoswami, who was on the same platform. It's Prithu Maharaj and the Kumaras and so on. Okay, let's see. This is an ancient scripture I have here. It's falling apart. I better glue the binding. This hasn't been reprinted, has it? Satyaraj's book? I don't think it has been reprinted. 59. Okay, so here we go. Read different selections from this. So, GopalBhattaGoswami. Get this out of the way. It says, before writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj asked all the senior devotees of Vrindavan for their blessings. Naturally, GopalBhattaGoswami, says 1503 to 1578, was one of those devotees. However, Gopal Bhatta specifically requested Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj that in exchange for his blessings, does anyone know what he asked for? Yeah, that his name's not mentioned, out of humility. He says he'd not use his name in Chaitanya Charitamrita. As a result of his humility, Gopal Bhatta's name is mentioned in only one or two passages of that great work, and little else is known about him. Biographical information is still available, however, in the Bhakti Ratnakara, and much can be gleaned too by the studying of the life of Sri Chaitanya. Read a little about this, but then skip ahead. We're not going to read this whole encounter with Venkat Bhatta, his father, and who is superior, Krishna or Narayan. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya began his walking journey throughout South India in the summer of 1510. After many days, he came to Sri Rangam, a small city located on the banks of the Kaveri River in the district of Tanjore, about 10 miles west of Kumbakonam. Famous as one of the most important centers of Krishna worship in all of India, it is more accurately a center for the worship of Lakshmi Narayan, an expansion of the divine couple Radha and Krishna. Nonetheless, Sri Rangam's main temple is the largest Vishnu temple in all of India, and pilgrims come from hundreds of miles to see Ranganath Swami, the deity of Narayan, in the main sanctum. Who's been there before? You been there? Isn't it nice how he actually has a face like Krishna? Ranganath. He's got a little chubby. It is here, and this is the deity that was given to Bibhishan, isn't it? And it faces south. Most temples are built facing north or east. It's actually facing south towards Lanka. It was here that Sri Chaitanya met Venkata Bhatta and his brothers Prabhananda Saraswati and Tirumala Bhatta. They were brahmanas of vast learning, and they welcomed Sri Chaitanya, the traveling mendicant, to be a guest in their home. At this time, too, Sri Chaitanya met Venkata's 7-year-old boy. Guess who that is? Venkata's 7-year-old boy, Gopal Bhatta. So this is where he comes into the story, who would one day become known as GopalBhattaGoswami. So the next section here is a whole section about the worship of Lakshmi Narayan and a conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Venkata Bhatta about who is superior. And this is recounted from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, so we'll skip that. There we go. It's quite a good one. Boy, there's a lot on that. Okay. So, during this time, the conclusion of the conversation, let me read this, the conclusion of that whole conversation. After discussing these subjects with Venkata Bhatta for the 4 months of the rainy season, so they kept coming up and they kept having this discussion, and allowing young Gopal Bhatta to serve him the whole time he was there, Sri Chaitanya decided to proceed on his tour to South India. When they heard that he was leaving, Venkata Bhatta fainted out of separation, and young Gopal cried with tears of love. Just to pacify Gopal Bhatta, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed to stay for a few more days. During this time, this is about a dream he had, a little boy. During this time, Gopal Bhatta had a dream, although it was more like a spiritual vision, instigated by an intense desire to see Sri Chaitanya. Before he started to practice the severe austerities of a renunciate, to see him in his pre-sannyasi days, Gopal Bhatta was fortunate enough to visualize the entire Navadvip experience, and by Sri Chaitanya's mercy, actually enter into it as a participant. In this dream, too, Sri Chaitanya revealed to Gopal Bhatta that he was in fact non-different from Shyama Sundar, the original two-armed form of Krishna playing on his flute, by appearing in this form and then transforming himself back into his own form as Sri Chaitanya. In this same dreamlike state, Gopal Bhatta was instructed by Sri Chaitanya, "You will meet two jewel-like persons, Rupa and Sanatan. I have given them my mentality, manobritti, in order to publish my teachings. But by your disciples, especially, these teachings will spread to every town and village." Who's he referring to there? Srinivasacharya. Yeah. In the Narottam and everyone, that group. Upon awakening, Gopal Bhatta went directly to Sri Chaitanya to serve him, but at that time, Sri Chaitanya gave him the following instructions. For now, so he was just a 7-year-old boy who was going to leave with Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, because he was a 7-year-old boy when they met. He was just there for 4 months. So he's a 7-year-old boy. He said, "I'm going with you." After that dream. So, for now, stay here and serve your mother and father. After they have departed from this world, you may go to Vrindavan and join Rupa and Sanatan. Always engage yourself in hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna. With these words, Sri Chaitanya left Sri Rangam. Young Gopal Bhatta never forgot these personal instructions or the dream in which Sri Chaitanya so kindly allowed him to entrance into the Navadvip Leela and revealed his divinity. As he grew in years, Gopal Bhatta accepted his uncle, a very prominent Vaishnava, Prabhananda Saraswati, right? Prabhananda Saraswati. As his spiritual master, and from him Gopal Bhatta learned poetry, rhetoric, Sanskrit grammar, and Vedanta. Remembrance of Sri Chaitanya, however, was the central driving force in his life, and he was thus able to defeat all opposing views to the theistic conclusions of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Bhakti Ratnakara describes that with the combined assets he acquired from Prabhananda Saraswati's vast learning and the inspirational memory of Sri Chaitanya's example and instructions, Gopal Bhatta became well known for his knowledge and devotion. As his Prabhananda Saraswati. As his reputation reached unprecedented proportions, he decided that he was ready to fulfill the mandate given to him by Sri Chaitanya. He was ready to go to Vrindavan. When Gopal Bhatta finally went to that holiest of lands, he was greeted with great love by Rupa and Sanatan, just like we're reading today's verse. Great devotee arrives, the other devotees said, "Can we at least see? This is a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya." And they received him very wonderfully. Meanwhile, in Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya became curious as to whether the now famous Gopal Bhatta had ever arrived in Vrindavan. Local legends and rumors were traveling fast. I wonder what that means back then. Now fast means like within a few seconds you'll see something on Facebook or Dandavats or something. So what does that mean back then? Fast. About 3 months, right? As long as it takes a walk from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri. Wow, that was fast. I heard that in 3 months' time. So, anyway. Yeah. So, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted confirmation, so he sent a letter. And how long did that take? From his head, that means a person actually hand-delivered it. There was no post box or anything like that. From his headquarters in Puri to Rupa and Sanatan, who were already in Vrindavan, and he asked them if Gopal Bhatta had indeed arrived. A messenger soon came to Puri, another 3 months, or whatever, maybe not 3 months, but weeks for sure. A messenger soon came to Puri with Rupa and Sanatan's response. "Yes, he is here. All the residents of Vrindavan, such as Lokanath, Bhugarbha, Kashishwara Pandit, Paramananda, and Krishnadas, are getting great pleasure from Gopal Bhatta, who is telling of your stay in Sri Rangam and your travels throughout the south. We accept Gopal Bhatta as our own brother, for as soon as he arrived in Vrindavan, he thoroughly adopted the life of a renounced mendicant." Because he was just grew up as a householder and so on. Not a householder, but and like that. But he immediately became... no. We'll see if there's another indication here as far as particular dates. In that same letter, Rupa described in a dream described a dream in which his deity of Govindadev had actually requested that Gopal Bhatta be his pujari. Imagine having a dream like that. Radha Giridhari are requesting Janardhan to become the pujari. Vrindavan tradition asserts that the Bhatta may have actually served Govindadev for some time, but it is known that he eventually began to worship his own deity, which he named Sri Radharaman. Further, he eventually had a magnificent temple built in the deity's honor. This temple, the Radharaman Mandir, is now considered one of the most important Gaudiya Vaishnava temples outside of Bengal. However, at that time, Rupa and Sanatan's letter arrived in Puri. The Radharaman deity and temple had not yet been founded. For the sake of the biographical narrative, then, the story of this deity and the temple will be disclosed later. When Sri Chaitanya received the letter from Rupa and Sanatan, he happily shared its contents with the devotees at Puri, such as Nityananda Prabhu, Advaitacharya, Haridas Thakur, and Gadadhar Pandit. He began to elaborate on the good qualities of GopalBhattaGoswami and told them of his 4 months with Gopal Bhatta's family in Sri Rangam. Overwhelmed with joy, Sri Chaitanya immediately dispatched a messenger with a letter for Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis. Although with this letter he sent a package for Gopal Bhatta. Do you want to know what was in that package? Want to know what was in that package? Okay, we'll let you know what was in that package. Which included his loincloth and other personal articles. Traditionally, such items are considered worshipable by devotees. When the letter and package arrived in Vrindavan, Rupa and Sanatan became ecstatic. Gopal Bhatta was deeply grateful that Sri Chaitanya sent his cloth, and he treasured the sacred paraphernalia for the remaining portion of his life. Further, as Rupa Goswami read the letter, he found specific instructions for Gopal Bhatta. Quote, this is from Lord Chaitanya directly, "Do not become dependent upon security or adopt a permanent residence. Spend much time assisting Rupa and Sanatan in compiling transcendental literature and thoroughly study this literature as well." These instructions he took to heart, and he soon wrote a book entitled Kshatriya Saradipika, a classic on the tenets of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Then he edited the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which was written by Sanatan Goswami. In addition, he wrote a scholarly introduction to Jiva Goswami's Sat Sandarbha and a commentary on Bilvamangal Thakur's Krishna Karnamrita. Since his most important contribution to the literature of Gaudiya Vaishnavism served to define the rites and rituals of gradual spiritual progress, a brief survey of these particular works is in order. There's another part of this called the Samskara Deepika in the book you get, and that elucidates on the rules and behavior and conduct of sannyasis, or renunciants. It gives details that explain Vaishnava sannyasi names and the scripturally based rituals which one can officially adopt the life of a traveling mendicant. Both the Kshatriya Saradipika and Samskara Deepika elaborate on fire sacrifice and initiation as originally taught in the Vedic tradition. Because he was coming from the Sri Vaishnava line, so he had all that kind of information. Of course, his most important work, the Hari Bhakti Vilas, is generally attributed to Sanatana Goswami, at least in its original form. It is said that Gopal Bhatta later produced a shortened version and added to it the Dig Darshini Tika, his commentary. Important point here. The Hari Bhakti Vilas is known as the Vaishnav Smriti, and as such it plays an important role in the study and practice of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Composed of 20 chapters, each called a Vilas, the book takes one through all of the pitfalls and dangers on the path of bhakti. With a scientific step-by-step analysis, the reader accompanies Gopal Bhatta as he takes them through the basic rules and regulations to the highest levels of Vaishnava etiquette. It should be noted, however, that the Hari Bhakti Vilas is primarily for India, and adjustments can be made according to time, place, and circumstance. Still, such adjustments should only be made by an empowered acharya in disciplic succession. This is the verdict of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Anyone think of an example from the Hari Bhakti Vilas that we don't follow?
No, I heard there's something about funny on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's very not eating eggplant on Ekadasi and things like that. Yeah, in general. So there's different things in there. And also, not only India, but he compiled this book to show that our line, we're following the scriptures. So, because the smartas and so on are saying, oh, you're just a bunch of sentimentalists. You don't really have any rules and regulations. There's no connection with the Vedas and so on. So he compiled. It's just like all the literatures of the Goswamis are quoting so many different Vedic literatures. So our Gaudiya Vaishnava culture, this book shows that, no, it's all there. The worship of Tulsi and this and that. And it's very elaborate. And some of it's just not that's what Prabhupada said, you would faint if I told you all the rules and regulations. We can't follow everything in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. 100 verses, yeah. So it's an extensive literature proving that our line is bona fide and our practices are bona fide. Living his life as an embodiment of the scriptures, his fame spread through all of India, and he became known as the younger brother of Rupa and Sanatan. In Vrindavan, his reputation as a master in the process of bhakti became especially prominent after a trip to the Gandaki River in Nepal. This is it. You want to hear about this trip to the Gandaki? Yes. What do you find in the Gandaki? Yes, okay, here it goes. There he procured 12 shilas, stones that are considered sacred incarnations of Krishna, and he brought them back to Vrindavan. The trip to Nepal and back was arduous, as in those days it meant traveling by foot, but Gopal Bhatta was undaunted. Upon arriving in Vrindavan, however, he felt unqualified to worship his sacred stones, and so it wasn't like Prime, you just send him back. He again journeyed all the way back to the Gandaki in Nepal. Imagine that if you bought a fancy dhoti in Vrindavan. You said, I can't wear this on the altar. And you just said, I'm going to bring it back to Vrindavan. Get on the plane, bring it all the way back to Loi Bazaar. Right? It's like, whew. She says, I can't wear it. Carefully placing the shilas in the holy river while chanting the appropriate mantras, the sacred stones spontaneously jumped back into his hands. Trying 3 or 4 times to leave them in the river, he found that he was not able to do so, for the same mystical phenomena occurred again and again. I think for me, it just once would be enough. Okay, I got the message. He kept trying. He took this as a sign from Krishna that he was to take them back to Vrindavan and worship them. This he did, and he soon became known in Vrindavan as the Goswami who worshipped 12 unique shilas. I think there's a name for him like that, like Dwadash or something where he worked. He carried them at all times in a cloth bag that hung from his neck. In 1542, so now we said earlier that was 1510, Lord Chaitanya was in South India. So this is only 32 years later. Okay. So that makes him in his 40s or something, right? If he was 7 in 1510, if he was 7 or even 8 or something, this is only this many years later, 42 years later, so close to 50. This is 8 years. 1542 is 8 years after the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya. Gopal Bhatta felt the need to worship a deity much like Rupa Goswami's Govinda deity. This need became especially poignant when a wealthy merchant gave him jewelry, ornaments, and fine cloth for the worship of the Lord. Because shilas do not have a human-like form, Gopal Bhatta considered that these ornaments could not be properly used in their worship. Therefore, he placed all these items before his shilas and fervently prayed for proper direction, which at least on that particular evening was not granted to him. The next morning, however, he found that one of the shilas, known as the Damodar Shila, had transformed into an incomparably beautiful deity of Krishna, just as he had desired. Overcome with happiness, he fell to the ground in all humility and began to offer humble prayers and profound eulogies. Hearing of the miraculous event, Rupa, Sanatan, and many other senior Vaishnavas hurried to the sacred spot where Gopal Bhatta was offering salutations of love. They were all there when he named the deity Sri Radharaman Dev. Local tradition asserts that the deity was given this name, which means Krishna who brings pleasure to Radharani, because the area where the deity appeared is near that of the Rasa dance, where Krishna increased Radharani's attachment and love for him by running away. There you go. There you go. There's the Shri Radhaman Ji Ki Jai. This Radhaman deity is worshipped in the same place today, although the modern Radharaman temple in Vrindavan now boasts an impressive enclosure which was eventually built just outside the northern wall of Nindivan. The original structure of the temple has been refurbished many times, the latest being completed in 1826 by Shah Kundan Lal and his brother Shah Pundan. Although Sri Radharaman Dev himself is not more than 12 inches high, pilgrims come from all parts of India just to see his staggering beauty. Curiously, there is no deity of Radharani in the temple, but at Radharaman's left side there is a small silver crown to acknowledge her presence. Once, several years after Radharaman Dev first appeared to Gopal Bhatta, the Bhatta was worshipping his deity and became overwhelmed with longing for Sri Chaitanya. Feeling intensely the mood of love and separation, remembering that he had one time promised his father that he would worship Sri Chaitanya, he began to feel a lack of chastity in worshipping his Radharaman deity. After all, although the deity was in one sense non-different from Sri Chaitanya, it was still a manifestation of Krishna playing on his flute. As soon as Gopal Bhatta started to feel these emotions, the deity manifested his feature as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopal Bhatta's tears of love began to flow like the river Ganga, as he realized once again Sri Chaitanya's identity as Krishna, now in the form of Radharaman Dev. This is a realization that he perpetually cherished and shared with others. Okay, we've got 2 more paragraphs. GopalBhattaGoswami came to be accepted as one of the great authorities on Chaitanyite Vaishnavism and initiated in the order of such luminaries as Srinivasacharya and Gopinath Pujari. It was soon discovered that GopalBhattaGoswami was an incarnation of Ananga Manjari, the younger sister of Srimati Radharani, although sometimes it is said that he was an incarnation of Guna Manjari. His intense study and knowledge of scripture acquired for him a reputation as one of the most important religious scholars in India, while his love and devotion for Sri Chaitanya and Radha Raman Dev has catapulted him into the status of a saint. He is now remembered as one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and to this day, reverential followers commemorate his exemplary life by regularly visiting his tomb or samadhi at the Radharaman Mandir. Gopal Bhatta Goswami Ki Jai, a luminary, a very bright luminary in the sky of our movement. Yeah. He's very, very delicate. And part of the Shila is still on his back. Yeah. So they say, oh, it wasn't self-manifest. People who claim maybe it wasn't self-manifest or whatever, he just right out the Damodar Shila. Dayanidhi has a Damodar Shila on the altar maybe one day. Yeah. There you go. Hare Krishna. There's a God. And you'll find him at the Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.